Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animation not made by the mouse. I'm your host, Octaviano, and today I'm going to be talking about Detective Pikachu. That's right, I'm doing a live action movie, not an animated one. That's because for the longest time I've been wanting to get into live action. Now, this is still a podcast dedicated to animation specifically, but I just feel like, hey, I should expand it a little bit, talk about some stuff that is part of animation, but, beyond that. We got the live action remakes of animated stuff. We got live action movies that are employing animation more and more via special effects. CG heavily blurs the line between these two things. After all, stuff like Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, have been considered animation because there's so much animated characters and animated stuff that even though there's live action aspects to it, people view it as the same thing. Now, obviously, I don't want to go into a whole thing of like what is animation and what isn't. I still count those things as live action. I still count the movie I'm about to talk about as live action. But what I mainly am trying to get at is that I just feel like if we're going to be doing these kinds of things, might as well give it a shot, might as well talk about it, see how people like it. This is not going to be a thing where I do it regularly, it's just going to be every now and then. Like I said, it's just that some of these things still work as that. In the case of Detective Pikachu, this is one I've been wanting to talk about for a while. The second I thought, like, hey, should I do live action? This was one of the first ones that came to mind just because it's special to me. I grew up watching Pokemon all the time. I played the games. I get the cards, all that kind of stuff. So I figured, yes, I got to do a Detective Pikachu episode. And yeah, it's nice to finally get around to it. I don't know if I'll have this be the last episode of 2024, but I will say that I do kind of feel like this is the end of an era for me in a way, just because I am finally dipping my toes into doing some live action stuff, which will lead into other episodes that will talk about this stuff, but I will, again, still be talking about mainly animation. Basically, I just feel like, hey, since this is a franchise rooted heavily into animation, I mean, it's mainly gaming, but hey, gaming is full of animation. This was, just a good one to start off with, and yeah, like I said, I really just love Pokemon. Detective Pikachu, let's get it started. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you're listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to the channel, feel free to comment, and ring the bell for notifications. Also, if you're on Spotify or just any other podcast site, follow this show on those platforms. Now, video game movies are nothing new. They've been around for years. One of the oldest ones, I'm not sure if it's the oldest one, is Super Mario Bros. The movie, the live action one with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. I enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't because it doesn't follow the games. Whatever, not even arguing about that. But I will say this. It is nice to see how gaming movies have changed over the years. And this is, to me, what I would say is honestly the Superman the movie of video games. In terms of, it just feels like finally that line between video game and movies comes down. This is a really faithful take on video games, for something that is very weird, like Pokemon. You would never expect it to work in live action without a lot of changes. A lot of these creatures are very odd. I mean, they even have Mr. Mime in this movie, who looks exactly like how you would expect them to in the games. Yeah, they added more details to make it more real, but they never felt like, okay, we're gonna make this character look more like a real animal kind of thing. Like, they could have easily made Mr. Mime look less like himself and more like, I don't know, like a rabbit or something, just to kind of compensate for the weirdness of it. But no, it looks exactly like how the character would look like in the games, and I think that's pretty amazing. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome because a lot of video game movies before this, and even after this, if we're being honest, would do the thing where it's like, okay, because this is very outlandish, very weird, we're going to try to make it more grounded in some way. I mean, as much as people love the Sonic movies, and I think they're fine, even those are kind of guilty of this. Where, I mean, granted, you'll notice it right away with when it comes to like the original movie, when you remember that there was like the ugly Sonic thing, and the whole process was like, okay, how do we make Sonic look more like an actual thing that could be in the real world? And then eventually they settled on, no, let's make him look like the video game character we love. Why are we doing this? And that was only because of fan outrage. But even, the later movies have tried splitting the difference, I guess, where they have the characters look exactly like their game counterparts, but they still have stuff like, okay, well, Robotnik's a real person, so let's have Jim Carrey act more like Jim Carrey than Robotnik, which is fine. I like Jim Carrey in the role. I'm not even going to complain about that. I don't know. It just never feels like it's bringing the game to the real world. It just feels like they're trying to bring the real world to the game. This definitely felt like, hey, what you get in the games is what you get in the movie. And yeah, granted, it's based off of a game that most people have never played, and most people will probably never even play, which is the Detective Pikachu spinoff. I tried it, wasn't a big fan of it. Regardless of it, you still look at it and think, yep, that's actually Pokemon. And that's what I love so much about this movie. It's Pokemon. Now, the plot of this movie is fairly straightforward. Tim, a young man played by Justice Smith, finds out his father has passed away while on duty. Entering the Pokemetropolis his father did detective work in, Tim wants to quickly leave, having been distant from his father after early life tragedy. But a talking Pikachu, voiced by Ryan Reynolds, leads him to discover a mystery surrounding his father's demise. With the help of a young news intern, played by Catherine Newton, and her Psyduck, Tim will rediscover himself as he solves the case, encountering all kinds of Pokemon, including the powerful Mewtwo. It's very simple, and I will admit that is one of the big flaws of the movie, is that it's very simple and straightforward. But personally, I don't mind it all that much, just because I feel like a lot of people get too distracted by these kind of things where it's like, okay, let's have like these complex narratives, and it's fine. I have nothing against that. I love complex narratives, but sometimes it is nice to see something where it's like, look, it's a simple, straightforward story for kids. Adults can enjoy it too, just because they'll, as long as they're engaged with the characters and the world, which I am. There's really no reason to, overcomplicate it with something like that. This is the first live action Pokemon movie. We can keep it simple just so that people can get the world and, get, understand how it works. And I think that is where this movie stands strong. And I feel like, again, this is something that is important when you're trying to introduce people to these things, and people forget about that as movies feel a little more complicated over time, especially franchises. You go back to like the original Iron Man and compare it to like what Marvel has done now, and it just feels like a very simple movie. And that's by design, because they want you to understand how this world works before you get in depth into all these things. And this is what it's doing. I feel like sometimes a great movie is born not out of having like all the little targets that people expect, like, great story or any of that. It's just a matter of doing one or two things really well for the general audience to understand what exactly they're watching. Nightmare Before Christmas, not a great story, if I'm being honest. I know people are gonna probably hate on me for that, but it's like, no, it's not a great story. It's a very basic and simple story. But the reason why it is a great movie is because the animation on it is great, the characters are great, just the world of it is amazing. But, the story, it's like, the villain gets introduced like more than halfway into the movie, and it's just kind of like he just wants to mess around. It's not a very deep or complex thing that you're watching. And again, using Marvel, the first Iron Man, very simple movie, but it works because it is allowing you to understand this world. And then you go further down the line with the first Avengers movie. The first Avengers is a very simple, hey, these people are coming together, they're meeting, they're talking. Not a very complex story, but it works because it's like, hey, this is what you're coming to see. You're coming to see how characters from different movies come together and seeing how they interact, and that's why that works. It works more than the second Avengers movie, which I feel has the better story and the more thought out, well thought out themes and stuff like that. But because it's trying to juggle all these things and trying to also set up future movies, it gets bogged down in its own universe to really stand out as much as that first movie does. This movie just needed to say, hey, can you believe a world of Pokemon being real? And I'm sorry, but I'm convinced that a world of Pokemon is real through this. Like, every little moment where you see a creature or two running off screen and they're just doing normal things, and it works because it feels like something that you would actually see in the real world. And that's what I love about it, is that it never feels like something that is distant. It very much feels like something that becomes tangible to our reality just because of the way they present it. The effects were incredible in this. Just the way they designed the creatures. I'm sorry, I just cannot complain. Like, the only thing for me is a big issue is just that, yeah, the story is pretty simple, but that's not something that I complain about too much. I mean, the thing that gets me a little more annoyed, honestly, throughout it, is that you have Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, which I think he's fine. I think he does a good job voicing the character, and I don't even hate Ryan Reynolds, but if there is one thing that I do kind of dislike about Ryan Reynolds in a lot of things, is that he does kind of become distracting in his own way, by trying to ad-lib a bunch of stuff, which sometimes works. I mean, it works for Deadpool for the most part. But when it comes to Pikachu, it just feels like, who are you talking to? Like, this is just like, sometimes like he'll just throw out a random line or two. Like, at one point he talks about climate change, and it just feels like, okay, this is just being said to the audience, and the characters in the movie are not even acknowledging him. Why is he even saying this? That to me was the only real thing that really annoyed me when we were watching this, because I saw this, this is not the first time I've seen the movie. I've seen it in theaters. In fact, I even saw it before that, but I'll get to that in a bit. I don't really have a problem with this movie. I really enjoy it, and to me it's just weird that it isn't bigger than it actually is. I can't deny it. I just love this movie. For me, it's about as perfect as it gets. The movie is so sincere in its love for the world and approach to the cast that I just can't help but love it. And sure, I'm biased. I grew up on Pokemon. The anime premiered in the States when I was like 4 or 5. I had the cards, the games, backpacks, etc. But still, to me, watching this was like watching Superman the movie for the first time. Or at least what I think that was like. Witnessing a serious attempt at bringing a medium to life and succeeding. I've never shied away from this. I think Detective Pikachu is the video game movie equivalent of Superman the movie. A movie that perfectly brings its world to life, free of cynicism, and just a perfect template to have these things be made, embracing their odd, silly nature, but again sincerely. The Pokemon look like real versions of themselves, no weird compromises. Mr. Mime is Mr. Mime, and that's pretty awesome. Like I was saying earlier, this is not the first time I've seen it. I saw it in theaters twice. In fact, I saw it 3 times. But the first time doesn't really count in the same way. You see, the thing is, I saw this movie before anyone had even seen a single frame of it. You see, I saw this movie through a test screening. About a week or 2 before the trailer even came out, I had an invite, I got in, and I was excited in line. I was talking about all the stuff about Pokemon that I love, especially the 5th generation, because that's my favorite generation. And when I got to the theater, I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to expect. Is this going to be like a weird thing where like the Pokemon don't look like the Pokemon I know? Is it going to be a simple story? Is it going to be complex? Is it going to be a bad movie? I didn't even know. The only thing I had going, into it was like, okay, well, the Pokemon company is involved with it, so they have a higher, an iron, grip on these things. And of course, with Nintendo's experience before, maybe this might be something unique and at the very least, true to the source. And yeah, I was definitely very impressed by the movie. I mean, it was unfinished. There was a lot of effects that were just kind of in the process, which as a result, some of them didn't look as good as they could have. But I was like, okay, well, just looking at how Pikachu is and stuff like that, is like, these Pokemon look kind of amazing. They kind of look like what I'd expect them to look like, and it just blew my mind because I was already expecting like, okay, they're gonna try to add in some features or just do things that would distract from the overall design, make it feel more like something that wasn't Pokemon. And for the most part, I was already prepared to be okay with that because I'm like, look, these are weird things. Like, I personally would like to do a Pokemon movie one day, and I remember before this came out, I was already thinking like, okay, well, certain Pokemon are going to be a little too weird for live action, so I might end up doing some changes, like maybe just throwing in certain Pokemon as just background things, like basically like, oh look, Vanillite is just a mascot for an ice cream company, and it's not going to be a real thing. But after watching this movie, I'm like, look. And to be fair, I'm not even a big fan of Vanillite. I'm not, when it comes to object Pokemon, it's kind of like some of them work, some of them don't. That's one that I don't really think it works. It's a cute design, but I just don't really see it all that well. But after watching this movie, I'm like, look, even if I don't really care for this little thing, I do believe this thing can work in live action now. And that, to me, is what's so amazing about all this. But yeah, watching it, weeks before a trailer had even launched was amazing to me, because it's like I had no idea what I was even going to expect. So it was going into a movie without any knowledge prior other than what Pokemon is, and the basics of Detective Pikachu, which this movie doesn't even follow all that much. So it just felt like something where I was like, this is new and fresh. I don't know what I am even here for, but I love that I am here for it, and I love that I'm experiencing this completely blind, no idea of like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, this is what's gonna happen. Oh, I'm expecting a scene where Mewtwo pops up, because I didn't even know that Mewtwo was gonna be in the movie. I just thought like, okay, well, if he's in the game, maybe, but I don't know if he's gonna be involved with the movie all that much. It could be a completely different thing. I wasn't aware of like the Mr. Mime scene. There was like nothing that I was fully expecting until I saw it. And yeah, of course, as you watch it, you start to piece together like, okay, this is the stuff that you're gonna get. But still, the fact that I went into this essentially blind meant that I could see this without any real kind of like judgment over it. Like, like I was fully immersed with what I was seeing, and I love that about this. Of course, that is a very personal experience. That's something that most people would have experienced, and I understand why that's not going to be special to anyone else but me. But it is something that's special to me, so I felt like sharing it. Still, despite the fact knowing that that's a personal thing, I am still kind of amazed that this movie didn't take off as much as it did. It was a decent enough hit. They are talking about doing a sequel, but they've been talking about doing it for years, so who knows if it's still going through. It could be something completely different by the time we actually get it. Regardless of it, I still hope to see a live action Pokemon movie soon. They really need to build on this, but I do kind of wonder if releasing it so close to Avengers Endgame kind of ruined it, just because everyone was watching, of course, like the big final Marvel movie, even though it isn't, to a point that they kind of missed out on this. And most reactions I know are kind of like, okay, it's positive or it's kind of lukewarm. I am not denying that those takes. I understand not everything's going to be for everyone, but I do kind of wonder if this thing had been at some point like a little more down the line, like pretty much away from the Avengers, away from anything that could have taken its spotlight, if it would have been a bigger hit. Because I kind of feel like it's a little weird that this is not talked about as much when it comes to great video game adaptations lately. Like, they mostly go to Sonic when it comes to the animated, the family-friendly stuff. And I'm like, look, Detective Pikachu, I know it's a personal opinion, but I think it's a much better movie than Sonic. It just is more sincere and more true to the franchise, and I just appreciate the fact that, unlike a lot of other modern, franchise movies, it isn't trying to kind of like make fun of itself. Like, it isn't trying to be like, oh, I can't believe this is a thing in this universe, which unfortunately is very common because Marvel kind of normalized that it isn't the worst thing. Sometimes it works, and I do think it does work, quite often in Marvel, but there are times where I'm like, okay, look, this is the world that you live in. Please stop making fun of it and being all like, sarcastic about it. Accept it, this is the world you're doing. You're going to be doing more of these. Why even joke about these things? But yeah, like, when it comes to Detective Pikachu, it's just a very sincere movie. The only times that it gets kind of cynical about itself is occasionally with Ryan Reynolds ad lib, but even those aren't that bad, so I don't really mind it. They are kind of annoying, but they don't overstep anything to make it truly awful. I don't know. I just feel like this movie could have been bigger, should have been bigger. Who knows? Maybe when the sequel comes out, and if it's just as good as this, if not better, then it will be. And like I said, look, if you are not a fan of it, I get it. It is not gonna be for everyone, and I don't say that in a way of like, oh, let me say that this movie is not good. It's just that not everything's for everyone. Me personally, I think it's a near perfect movie. Highly recommended, and I feel like most people will come out of it at least kind of amazed by the world. Like it is impressive that they were able to do this at all. But again, I fully understand if it's not for everyone. No matter how good you make a Harry Potter movie, I don't really care. I'm not a Harry Potter fan. The same could be said for stuff like Steven Universe for me, or I don't know, Adventure Time. I know people are probably gonna kill me for saying that, but I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with them. They when they're good, but I'm not like deeply entrenched with them. I would imagine even if they make something how I feel about this movie with those things, where it's like, okay, this is like the best of the best of what those can do, I probably would still not care all that much. Maybe I would, but I don't know. Sometimes some things aren't for you, and that's okay. That's generally how I feel about this. I don't know what to say about. I don't know how to win you over if that's you, where you just don't care about Pokemon. I will say that, like, look, if you just are willing to open your mind and just watch a fun little kids movie that shows this world with good effects, you'll enjoy it. If you are a fan of Pokemon, I think you can enjoy this a lot more. I don't know. I've seen some people who don't really like it because of like Justice Smith, or because the plot is too simple. Again, fair. Not even gonna argue with you guys. I think you're wrong, but I get it. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But me, highly recommended. I think it's, to me, the best video game movie that's ever been made. Just a really fun time. Even all these years after watching it, maybe it's a nostalgia thing. I don't know. I don't care. I just really love it, and I can't complain, and I do want more. Honestly, I've had various reconnecting to the franchise moments with Pokemon. Those times where I feel addicted again, and this was among them. A beautiful movie that's exactly what it wants to be. And for the longest time, I've wanted this to be the first live-action film I talk about, precisely because this is a live-action adaptation of a normally animated franchise that respects it and doesn't try to alter the DNA of the source material. Detective Pikachu, impressive movie. I love the fact that, even going beyond the effects, the look of the movie is so good. Like the lighting, the angles that they use for the camera, like it really does look impressive. Like even without the effects, this looks, and I don't want to be mean, but it looks more like a real movie than certain other modern blockbusters. Not that this isn't a modern blockbuster. I mean, come on. But, in comparison to like some of the things that are coming out that were bigger budget, or, just have more, backing to them, one of the franchises I've been talking about throughout this entire thing. The lighting in it is just impressive. The colors, just the way it all looks is very nice. I just feel like it looks, again, more like a real movie than some of these other things. Like it looks like a nice little kid's first noir movie. Which it kind of is kid's first noir movie if you really look at it. Yeah, it's impressive on many levels, honestly. Still kind of amazed that it didn't get any nominations for effects, but I don't know, whatever. That not a movie doesn't need any awards to know that it's good, and this movie is just really good. As a movie that I'm doing for this show, I'm glad that this is the first live action movie that I'm really talking about. Let me know how I did. I hope I can talk about some more stuff. This is not anytime soon, but I do want to someday talk about the live action Looney Tunes movies on here, and it'd be great if you guys find some interest in that through this. But otherwise, that's my final message. Really good movie. Highly recommend it to people. Maybe you won't love it as much as I do. I fully accept that. But at the very least, if you give it a shot, if like assuming that you haven't already, that would make me really glad. So, thank you for listening. See you again next time.
Did you just understand me? Oh my god, you can understand me! Stop! I've been so lonely!
Thanks for stopping by. Go ahead and follow this channel. Subscribe, like and comment, ring the bell for notifications. Go ahead and also follow my podcast. And give some love to my Patreon account while you're at it. It's www.patreon.com/saicams. Again, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you come back for more in the future.